So, fellas, today we'll be talking about something that I have constantly heard in my comment section, in my DMs, about how our ancestors died at 30 years old. And this is just simply not true. When you account for infant mortality, when you account for having to outrun a tiger on a daily basis, the harshness of nature, our ancestors lived just as long, if not longer, than us. And they were 10 times healthier. They had straight teeth. They had strong bones. They were in their proper state of ketosis most of the year, unless they stumbled upon a bushel of berries during the freaking ice age. So you have to realize, your body right now has never touched that metabolic state that your ancestors, the people that you descend from, 99% of your ancestors, because 10,000 years ago, pre-agriculture, that was not that long in the grand scheme of human history. If you were to map all of human history of anatomical humans that looked like us onto a calendar year, agriculture was invented yesterday. Everybody else, all the other 364 days of that calendar, that proverbial calendar, they were all in ketosis most of the time, pretty much all year round. So you have to understand, what do you think is going to happen if you instead live in this modern society where the only time you ever really taste ketosis is probably when you're first born, because babies are born in a state of ketosis? Your ancestors stayed in that state for most of their lives because, a lot of people come at that and they say, oh, well, breast milk must have, taken away the ketogenic state. That is not true. There is studies upon studies about that, saying that breast milk alone will keep a baby in ketosis. So, putting that aside, assuming that these folks pre-agriculture were not chomping on grains and all these other carbs, they were in ketosis most of the year, pretty much all the time. But you, being raised on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches like I was, you are living in a state that has 100% deviated from your natural state, the state in which 99% of your ancestors developed, the state in which your genes, your body, your blueprint for who you are as a human being, the state that was created in. You haven't even touched that. Okay? So just think about what's going to happen when you're not in that state. Because I can show you what happened. Right after agriculture was invented, those perfectly straight teeth that our ancestors had, suddenly crooked. Suddenly full of cavities, suddenly crooked, suddenly having a bunch of issues with their bones, their teeth, lower life expectancy, smaller craniums. You can look this up. Our brain sizes shrank after agriculture. Do you want a small grain muncher brain? Because I had one for most of my life. And that's why I was broke, miserable, sad, lived with my parents, didn't have this career in finance that I do now. I'm just trying to, I make all this stuff. One, because I want you guys to get jacked. But two, because you have to realize this reality that we're living in, this matrix, as they call it, it all started with agriculture. It all started when some guy was like, hey, sometimes with all the natural disasters and environmental issues that sometimes lead us to needing to, go days without finding finding a successful animal to hunt down. It would be much more stable if we just build these things called farms and make all these grains and live off of that. Doesn't that sound great? And who knows what happened, but, the story of Cain and Abel is actually likely an allegory of that point in human history. But you have to realize, since that point, everybody was forced into that type of society. And we are living in that society right now, 10,000 years later, not that long ago, basically yesterday, as I was just describing with that yearly analogy. So, kind of like how society is today. People try to tell you that it'll be better off if you eat these fake foods, these fake protein bars, these fake meats. It'll be better off if you just stop living the way that even your grandfather did. You'll be much healthier, you'll feel much better, and the environment will be way better off. But guess what? Your grandpa, in his frickin' 70s, had higher testosterone than you. So, do you see yet what happens when you deviate from the natural order? When you deviate from what made your ancestors apex predators that took over the world? We are 8 billion human beings strong. Do you think that would happen if your ancestors thrived on Beyond Meat and bread and pasta? Do you really think we'd be where we are at today, I should say? Do you really think we would be the dominant species on the planet if we lived our entire species history in a state that shrank our brains, made our bones weaker? We are very resilient. We are extremely adaptable, so we survived in that period of time. But we're coming down. We're at 80, 70, 60% of our genetic potential. And I just make this page to show the genetic potential that everybody has when they adopt a proper lifestyle. Because my genetic potential was seemingly zero for most of my life. Couldn't do a push-up, couldn't do a pull-up. Was severely anxious, severely sad. Saw no future for myself. I had no grasp of my ability to manipulate reality. I was calcified. We'll get more into that in later videos as well. Can't talk too much about that on these social media platforms, but if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But my whole point is that this idea of, free yourself from the matrix, of course, doing that involves becoming financially successful, but the first matrix you have to free yourself from is the physical matrix. The matrix that keeps you small, weak, sad, your brain inflamed, your body in pain, needing these products from these big corporations just to survive. That is the biggest lie. That is the biggest matrix. Because the second you crack that, the second you realize you can literally change rapidly how you feel, how you think, how you look, so rapidly, then you will realize that you have the creative power of God to manipulate other things in your reality. You're going to ask yourself, what else is being hidden from me? What else am I being lied to about? And the only way to truly experience that is to revert back to how your ancestors grew up, how they metabolically developed. So I will leave y'all with that. Of course, the side effect of all of this is getting jacked, but having a superhuman brain, having the higher IQ that I have compared to my D student self prior to all of this, that is the greatest miracle of all this stuff. This answered prayer of a lifestyle that fixed all my health issues. So obviously, getting jacked is probably why a lot of y'all are here, but that is the peace, that mental peace, the peace of breaking out of the physical and thus mental matrix. That is what is going to make this magical for you. So ramping up that metabolism that will get you to the point where you can successfully thrive on tons and tons of delicious, fatty, nutritious animal products. You got to work out. Watch some of my training videos. Watch when I talk about work capacity. Read up on the methods I talk about as far as what the bodybuilders did prior to the era of unnatural enhancements, I should say. And get yourself in the gym. Don't make it your whole life. Make it part of your life. And get the nutrition dial in, and everything will fall in its place. You will look different. You will feel different. Everything. If you want some one-on-one help with that, hit me up. Give me a DM on Instagram. I'll see if I can help you. But otherwise, I got all this content. I sit here and I yap because I know that I can't just keep this to myself. I know that this answered prayer of a lifestyle that fixed all my health issues, made me feel happy. I know that it's not meant to just be kept to myself. Just sit here behind my desk, work in my finance job, and just think, oh yeah, I'm so glad I'm not how I used to be. Nobody should be how I used to be. Nobody. If everybody did this, a certain sector of the economy would collapse overnight. I'm not going to say it, but y'all know what I'm talking about. So free yourself of the physical health matrix and get after it. Jesus is King. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.